It'll be me and you inside.
Berman's should be still here around somewhere.
I think it sounded like he was staying.
Well, he was up talking to Madam Chair.
I still have.
We'll give him a minute or two here.
So I take on this task. Putting brakes on two of my vehicles.
Are you doing a great job?
Got one done. And the other one,
I gave that up about 20 years ago, man. They get, well, how old is your vehicle?
the first one I did with our Camry was the 2015.
Yeah.
The other one is a 2018 Jeep.
It's a no-win scenario. It's hard work, it's dirty.
But if it's fun if you get it right.
You have to do it right.
I got the fronts done. I just got one side to do on the back. But I'm gonna wait till the shade gets back in my driveway. I need an indoor spot to do this.
Yeah, well, there's another thing too. If it's not really good conditions, you're perspiring that dirt, that goes everywhere, that brake dust.
I love, I wouldn't want to do it all the time, but every now and then, I love tinkering.
Oh, you're still a young guy, yeah. Mine is sort of a cash thing. If I got the cash to have somebody else do it. Although I've got a buddy that I used to work with over at the family business. He does them on the side, or actually most of his businesses, doing brake jobs and stuff, and he does a really reasonable job of it.
Guys who taught me how to work on the car. One of the guys taught me. I'm still doing this. Security. Just
Doesn't do it.
I was in college. Pinto wagon.
Pinto.
Had a Mustang, but I didn't get it. So I drove home without third gear, second or third gear. One of those.
Yeah. That's a 4-speed.
Yeah.
What do you need?
So when I got to it, I finally got my first paycheck. Spoke with my mom, I need to get my car. My transmission. If I hear tomorrow morning.
Sounds like my uncle's. Payment. Car first, then beer.
I said, man, I'm just gonna. Comes from under the car. He said, come here, let me show this up. Folks, come get me out the house when you get done taking it down. Grab a 6-pack and go out.
Mr. Caius, this is Scott Berger. Can you hear me?
I can, Mr. Berger.
I believe you have a quorum. I see in the room there yourself and Mr. Ford, and I see Cheryl Fritz Strathmore is on the line as well. So 3 members does constitute a majority of the committee.
Guess we'll do it then.
Herman be down.
Oh, do we have a printed agenda?
And Mr. Caius, can you get on your microphone? We can't hear you.
Oh, there. Okay. Yes.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. Different microphone, a different button. Okay, let me pull up something here. and we'll get started. Okay. All right. My name's Chris Caius. The time being Tuesday, 1 p.m. Tuesday, 1:09, Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. I'm chairman of the Riverboat Committee, and I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Caius? I
Roll
can
call.
do that. I can do that for you, Chris.
Okay. Long one.
Caius,
Present.
Berman, Ford,
Ford present.
Leonard, Strathman.
Strathman present.
We do officially have a quorum. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from Riverboat Committee, May 6th, 2022.
Ford moves.
Board
Strathman
moves,
seconds.
Strathman seconds. Any changes, modifications, comments? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Berman, Ford,
Ford, yes.
Leonard, Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Okay, now, item number 4, consideration of the fiscal year 2023 department applications. And that would be, Mr. Berger, would you like to lead off on that?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Blair, I think that Chris Dahl provided you with a copy of the summary of the applications that came in from the departments. If you could please display that. And if not, I'd be happy to share my screen so that I can do that. This year, you did receive a total of 14 applications from a total of 8 departments.
Hey, Scott, would you share your screen? Because I'm not sure I
Yeah.
have that.
Be happy to do that. Give me just a minute. Okay, you should see on your screen a table that summarizes the 14 programs that are seeking funding for fiscal year 2023. On the spreadsheet, you'll see the department name, the project name, the projected unobligated fund balance for 11/30/2022. Just a quick note, that is the amount expected to be on hand as the county closes out its fiscal year on November 30th. Those dollars represent funds that would be available for use in the new fiscal year 2023. I do want to note that we had a couple deviations on this spreadsheet from other figures that you may have seen. The balance, the projected balance in tuition reimbursement was slightly higher, given that we've had some employees leave the county's employment, and that has triggered a repayment of tuition reimbursement to the program. Those funds have gone back into the program and thus elevates the balance that we project we'll have on hand at the end of November. And then also I want to call your attention to Fund 223 in the State's Attorney's Office. The domestic violence program is projected to have a negative balance at the end of this fiscal year. That figure came to us from the State's Attorney's Office, so we presume that they've projected they're going to go over budget during the current fiscal year and end up with a negative balance, which they'll need to work with the finance department on that, on how to resolve that. But that does represent a negative number. In total, the departments expect to have about $500,000 in cash on hand available on December 1. And that money can be used to fund expenses in the new fiscal year. The center section of the table in blue represents the requests that the departments have made of you. In a couple instances, we have programs that want to use cash on hand. but largely the programs are requesting new money from the Riverboat Fund for fiscal year 2023. And then in this green section of this table, what you'll find are the average figures from you and your fellow committee members. Each of you filled out a worksheet expressing what you would do if funding decisions were left to you. We've taken your figures and we've averaged those. And so in both columns for cash on hand, as well as new Riverboat funds, we've simply averaged the numbers that you've given to us. So those figures here represent the average. Collectively, the committee is recommending the use of $102,000 in cash on hand, as well as transferring just shy of $3.4 million in new Riverboat funds to the various departments, for a total use of funds of just over $3.5 million. Just to jump ahead, we have taken these figures and we've built a draft budget for the Riverboat Fund for fiscal year 2023. That's included in your packet. And the figure under internal grants is based on these figures here. So that concludes my summary of the information before you. I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, to convene a discussion of the committee.
Okay, well, we'll discuss how we want to proceed here. My question to the committee members that are present, is there any of the recipients that are applicants that have applied that we don't, that any of the committee members have a question of those applicants? Or do they understand them well enough so that they have no question that each one is I hate to say deserving, but certainly they have a question whether they fit within the scope of the funds that we want to give to the causes.
Chairman Caius, this is Strathman.
Yes, Ms. Strathman.
I would like a little information on number 407, the quality of cane grants. I'm not quite sure what that is or what that covers.
Okay. And Mark Van Kerkhoff, our Director of Development, can you enlighten?
Yeah, good afternoon. And is this on?
If it's on, you may have to hold it close to get to
Yeah.
work.
Good
Yeah, there you go.
afternoon, and thank you for the question. This Riverboat grant originated back years ago when the county board did a annual leader summit. And this was used to fund 2 of those events that was held. The third one was not held. We've carried over the use of the funds in anticipation that at some point, either between our programs in agriculture, economic development, broadband infrastructure, that there would be a need to use, maybe not for one big event, but for smaller events. And actually, since we submitted the Riverboat application, one of those smaller event opportunities has come to light, and we are going to be using some of these funds to fund the Workforce Housing Summit on August 23rd to pay for the rental and some of the food for that. And then we want to continue to reserve the balance of those funds for our upcoming efforts with the Fabulous Fox Water Trail, marketing and convening for that, as well as for economic development. So hope that answers your question. Happy to answer any additional questions.
Yes, thank you. That does answer my question. Is this available though for just the development department, or are other people available? Can other people avail this money, or other groups?
It's for the use by the county board. So if there's another type of event like the Workforce Housing Summit that we're holding in August, I'll be happy to talk about that. These are the county board's funds for event purposes.
Okay, great. Thank you. That does answer my question.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Ron?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. What determines what's available out of the different projected unobligated fund balance?
Is your mic on for sure? I'm having tough.
It's on. I'm able to have it close enough. So what determines what's available actually can be used dollar-wise for the obligated fund balance?
I believe I can answer that question. So the first column of figures that you see represent a projection. Each department is asked to give a mid-year report. We've forwarded those mid-year reports to you for your review. And in that mid-year report, each department is asked to project, take into account their expenditures between now and the end of the year, as well as their obligations. That would be funds that are encumbered, funds that are expected to be under contract, for example. And the balance is what constitutes the unobligated fund balance.
All right, thank you. I would like to see the different departments use more of the, especially the ones that are large amounts, use more of their use more of those funds towards these projects, these requests for funding.
That is within your purview as a committee. So I want to just say that the intention behind this spreadsheet is not to give you a final answer, but to kind of share with you collectively what the committee feels should be done with funding. And this is simply intended to give you a starting point for your deliberations today.
And thank you.
Mr. Caius Strathman again.
Yes, Mr. Rathman.
I agree with Mr. Ford on this. I would like to see the different departments utilize those unobligated funds in the coming fiscal year. You know, to put that with what they've requested, or to factor that in with what they've requested from us.
All of the entire
Yes.
unobligated fund balance.
Yes, I would.
Speculate or as estimated for 11/30. Scott, do you have can we pull up a live?
Yeah, I think what I'd
spreadsheet?
like to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'd like to ask Tracy Glassford to share hers. Because she has a spreadsheet that, as you say, is active and can capture any changes that you as a committee want to make to these figures. Looks like Tracy just began sharing her screen. So there's a lot of information on the screen, but our intention here is that the green section is where she can make adjustments based on the feedback and comments you make. So we will now do our best to memorialize the changes that you wish to make in this spreadsheet so that you can see what the result of your deliberations are.
Okay. Is there a chance you could plug in the from column D, all of them except the negative number into column P? And that would be taking all unobligated funds from column D and just pasting it into. So the 50,000, that would be 50,000, first one. $56,554.
It'll take us a minute to do that, but we're
Sure.
certainly happy to
Yeah.
populate those figures.
And take out the 8 minus 18.
Okay, so column U represents the amended figures that you've asked for. And this table reflects, again, accounting for the eliminating the minus $18,000 figure, it looks like we are at $537,000 in cash on hand. Oh, it's changing a little bit here.
Yeah, some of those aren't quite populating the way straight across. Did,
So it looks like now when we take your recommendation along with an adjustment for cash on hand, now column U, I'm just glancing at this, it looks like with the exception of the domestic violence program, that all of our cash on hand figures reflect the amounts that were projected to be on hand at November 30th.
the, down on recycling? Oh, I see.
So now, based on your feedback, we've amended your recommendation, your committee recommendation, to reflect a new figure. And I think our next question would be, how would you like this to affect the new funding that you are considering awarding to the departments?
Can we take the so new funds would be, so this in column W,
Right, so right now, column W constitutes the figures you gave us as a committee, and we average those. I'm assuming that now that you propose to increase the use of cash on hand, if I'm following your logic, I believe you would probably like to reduce the amount of new funding that's transferred to the departments.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
So take the
I have to say, Tracy is a wizard when it comes to these spreadsheets.
looks pretty good.
I would never be able to keep up.
I could probably do it, but it would be not less complicated. It'd be pretty simple math.
So it looks like Tracy's making adjustments to the proposed amount of cash to be transferred to the departments on December 1. And as I compare, your initial recommendation was for total funding of 3.501. And our new amount is now a little bit higher. So I think we must have a discrepancy
Yeah,
in the
mine would be
spreadsheet.
just amount requested minus column U for the final, or
Looks like Tracy, I think we might be $5,000 off somehow.
well,
5,000.
I think it's because of the tuition reimbursement, 5,000. I'm not making an adjustment anywhere on that one.
That's right. So just to summarize, so we've made the spreadsheet shows the use of as much cash on hand as is available in the department's funds. It adjusts the amount that you're recommending be transferred to the departments. And then because there's an increase of $5,000 for tuition reimbursement, the net recommendation is exactly $5,000 more than the committee collectively recommended to us in the spreadsheets. I hope that makes sense.
no.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, well, good for you, Ron. Ha, ha, ha.
Mr. Chairman. And so then our recommendation for new Riverboat funds goes from 3.4 down to just under 3 million, right?
That
30,
is correct.
20,
Okay.
should go to 32. Or 3.2. So the total, what I would be looking for is the total on the right-hand column,
Wait,
which says 50,000. That's essentially where it all ends up
Tracy,
the
we have
total
a,
in Y should equal the total amount requested, which is in column J. So let's say for Title IV, they requested 237,893, but it says 231,614.
yes, that's because collectively, you as a committee made that recommendation in your spreadsheet.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Tracy, we have a negative. I'm not sure I understand the negative 498.77 for quality of cane.
That was,
So in order to, because my adjustments are adding and subtracting to the other cells. So if I'm increasing the amount of cash on hand that we're asking them to use, we're asking them to use the full 20,498.77. I'm increasing that in the cash on hand column, and then I'm subtracting it from the amount that they're asking for.
I got it,
But they're
yeah.
asking zero. So, yeah, so it would be zero, Scott.
Well, I
well,
suspect that what we probably should do is adjust column U. So for
20,000.
example, Mr. Vankerkhoff is requesting the use of $20,000 cash on hand. And we probably should reduce column U to 20,000,
So they're not using the
since
total
that's what
amount.
he's requesting.
Yeah,
And then cost share drainage is actually not requesting a budget for next year. So I presume that means that there's not going to be activity in the cost share program. So those two figures should probably be zero. Okay. So now in the far right-hand side, I see no negative numbers, only the approval of the use of cash on hand as well as amounts to be transferred on December 1.
did you have a comment?
I
Ms.
just wanted to
Molnick?
clarify, Scott, we do have a budget in cost share. We're just using cash on hand. We're not requesting any new money.
What amount are you requesting to use from
The
cash
100
on hand?
The 114.
Okay. So
So
we
we would-
made that adjustment.
So either way, in that case, for that particular fund, the 114 would come out of unobligated funds, zero new funds. So we're just authorizing 114,786, which they already have.
Correct.
I'm not sure what the formula is here, but I would like to see it so that that column Y is the same thing as column J, which is their full budget. So if Title IV requested 237, what would it take to change it so that the 231 over there would be 237? This is all just workaround. Can we take the formula out that we had where we're averaging everyone? Is that what
Yes,
that's what the
yes.
thing is? Can we take the formula out of that?
Mr. Chairman, I think what we're trying to do is we still want to end up with them having what
A
they
full budget, but
what they are requesting.
to take it
right.
would be the
So if
sum.
I understand you correctly, you're interested in discounting or discarding the committee worksheet process and simply fully funding the departmental requests
That's what I would say.
while using as much cash on hand as possible.
Yeah, there
Yes.
you go.
All,
That's what I
all
would
the
think.
cash on hand.
Yeah. So that everybody ends up fully funded for the next year, but it's a combination of new funds and
Cash on hand.
cash on hand.
That makes sense to me.
Then we would end up with new funds at 3.23 million. cash on hand, 517,000. Well, that still says more than what we have on hand, or maybe that's because the 18's out of there, minus 18.
We somehow are ending up with a grand total that is significantly more than the amount requested. Tracy, are you searching
I
for
think it might, I think it might be because we added Jody's 114
Oh,
cash
that's
on
true.
hand in there,
That's
which is
true.
adding into the total. So if I subtract that out, we're at 3.62662,
Okay.
which matches column J.
Yes, so the budget request figures did not account for Ms. Walnick's use of $114,786 in cash on hand. So we've now incorporated that into the final column.
Right.
So we've got cash on hand totaling 517,000 and new funding equaling $3.2 million.
Okay.
Okay. Comments from the committee?
I would say I believe that's what we're looking for. I mean, we have to give her a chance to really go over the numbers. It's amazing that she can do it so quickly.
I agree.
I'll be getting back with you guys by
I'm comfortable
Thursday,
with that
but
as well.
yeah.
That would, and partly because I think I erred when I did my calculations on submission of the the funds so that we could get the final numbers on that preliminary spreadsheet. I would be comfortable with this.
So I believe it should come out so where that, because we added in the 114,700, whatever it is, and then 86, and then the 5,000
Right.
to be added to,
So the total fund,
so it should be over, when it gets done, it should be over the, like 119,786, I believe.
Okay.
That makes sense, Scott?
Yeah, I think we've captured your intention in this discussion today. And we do have some tallies here. And if you want to give us the directive to move forward with these figures, we will certainly be ready to do that.
does that just require consensus?
I would suggest that you call for a motion a second, and we can do a roll call vote. Since this does involve funding, it
Funding?
would be
Okay.
important to memorialize that in a vote.
I'll make the motion forward.
Okay, moved by Mr.
Strathman was
Ford,
second.
seconded by Strathman, that we will be taking this that forward to the board for voting on, and which I don't see any glaring errors. I'm kind of slow, so
Well,
I would say that the idea is that all of each of the requests is fully funded with either unobligated funds or new Riverboat funds.
and those are to equal what they requested.
Yes, so it's the requests are
So
granted.
Mr. Dahl can conduct a roll call if you'd like.
Okay, any comments? Other comments? Strathman?
No,
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm
Okay,
good.
then roll call, please.
Okay, I'm gonna say everyone, even though everyone is not present. Caius,
Caius, yes.
Berman, Ford,
Ford, yes.
Leonard, Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Okay. As we know, this is just a suggestion to the board.
So just for your information, we'll draft a county board resolution that approves these figures that you've arrived at today. That will go to the August executive and full board meeting. So you can expect to see that on your executive and ultimately county board agenda next month.
Okay, great, sounds good. So then that, we need to go to item 5, consideration of Victoria Riverboat Fund budget for, that was what we just did, right?
Well, so let me just call your attention to page 2 of your packet that Mr. Dahl sent out last week. Page 2 is a draft budget. And Tracy, can I ask you to share your screen with that draft budget document? So just to walk you through what we've prepared, this is, these figures are already a little bit out of date because of the changes that you just made to your internal awards. But what we've attempted to do here is capture a projection of revenue and expenses for the center column of figures represents Fund 120, which is the Grand Victoria Casino Fund. And we're using the Riverboat proceeds that we received in April as the basis for our revenue amount. And what we can do certainly is make adjustments to the internal grants expense line, which is about 2/3 down on your expenditure budget, and reflect the figures that you just recently, just now approved. And we'll certainly make the necessary amendments to these figures and recommend this budget move forward for Fund 120. At the bottom of your screen, Tracy, if you could scroll down slightly, I just want to call your attention to our projection of unobligated year-end fund balances. We are fortunate to have received a larger allocation of Riverboat funds this last April, but we note that overall the trend for funding from the casino has been on the decline. So as we've seen for the last several years, we are diminishing the fund balance in Fund 120. And you can see that we're projecting just shy of $8 million at the end of this fiscal year, and not including any proceeds that we receive next April. Our projection is about $3 million at the end of next year. So the fund balance is diminishing, and we just wanted to disclose that to you as we work on our budgets year after year, and be mindful of where that balance is going.
With the exclusion of this last year, which is an increase?
Correct.
Okay.
Hopefully this most recent allocation is not an anomaly. Hopefully the casino continues to do well. Our apologies to those who lost their money at the table, but
Thank you.
it does result in revenue coming your way.
Our gratitude, our eternal gratitude, and
Exactly.
our sympathy.
Do we need to
Or-
vote on this or?
So, well, it's hard to vote on without all the figures in there. Do we have a live one that doesn't automatically populate? I apologize.
But I think we have enough information. We need to vote on it that we can make the recommendation based on how Scott explained it.
Tracy is making adjustments right now to reflect
Yeah.
the changes you've made regarding internals. Give us just a minute to do that,
Certainly.
and we'll be able to show you what your draft budget will look like for Fund 120. All right, so thank you, Tracy. So we've altered line 16 to reflect the amounts you just approved a moment ago. And fortunately, that does increase our net income amount, which represents basically the amount of money we're socking away for the future. So that's just shy of $1 million at this point. And Tracy has prepared a balanced budget with $5.4 million in revenue and expenses for the year.
Okay.
So if you'd like to approve this, we'd be happy to enter that and in the county's budget template.
All right.
Forward, I'll make the motion.
Strathman seconds.
Okay, moved by Ford, second by Strathman to adopt this budget.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Caius,
Yes.
Berman, Ford,
Ford, yes.
Leonard, Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. I guess that's my line. Sorry.
So the last item we have for you is just informational. The last page of your agenda packet includes an application timeline that Mr. Dahl prepared. Just to give you a bit of a preview, as is our practice, we typically launch our external grant cycle in January. And I'll let, thank you, Blair. So we launch our external application cycle in January with applications due in March. And Riverboat Committee deliberations in mid-May. Following that, we will launch our internal application cycle for fiscal year 2024. And so that'll happen roughly this time next year. You'll convene to review internal applications and take up the budget deliberations for fiscal 2024.
Okay.
This is just, again, this is just informational.
All right.
Right. My computer's frozen up here. Hang on just a second.
I'd be happy to answer any questions if the committee has them.
Okay, so then that is item schedule. And then, yes, is there any other comments or question from anyone on the committee?
Not at all. Not for me.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Ford moves,
Strathman will second.
Strathman seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.